In this lesson, we're going to look at how we can create simple but popular brand logos such as Nike, Pepsi, and so on and so forth. These have been placed on Google Drive, and to start, we're going to go to Illustrator, and you're going to ask for a new document. And in the new document, you're going to choose a preset letter size and set the orientation to portrait as opposed to landscape. Next, we're going to go to that Google Drive folder and get one of those logos. I'm going to go File, Place to do that, and I'm going to choose the Pepsi logo. Now you'll notice that it's a little large. Let me choose my selector tool, the top tool up here. V is the shortcut, by the way. I'm going to move that down, and holding my Shift key, I'm going to grab one of the anchors and shrink this down to size so that it fits within the real estate of our document. And I could use the arrow keys on my keyboard to shift this left and right a bit. Okay, I'm now going to go to my layers. Now layers are over here on the right side, and we've got our toolbar over here, and you'll notice that this little icon is for layers. If you don't see it, you can always go to Window and select Layers. And I'm going to lock this layer because it's going to serve as our background template to guide our design. Next, I'm going to ask for a new layer that I can draw on, and I'll call this Circles. Okay, now I'm going to want to draw a perfect circle to match the circular design of the Pepsi logo. To do that, I'm going to ask for my rulers to show up. So I'm going to go to View, Rulers, Show Rulers, and from there I'm going to click on the ruler itself, the horizontal ruler, click on it and drag down while clicking, and try to line up my ruler so that it touches the top of the Pepsi logo. And then I'm going to grab from the vertical side of the ruler, I'm going to click on that and grab a guide and drop that one on the vertical axis. Now next I'm going to switch tools over here, my tool palette, and I'm going to choose the Ellipse tool. If you click on any tool that has one of these little triangles on it, you'll notice that many other flyout tools appear. So in this case, I'm choosing the Ellipse tool, and I'm going to go to the intersection of the horizontal and vertical guides up here as a starting point, and holding my Shift key because I want a symmetrical circle. Holding the Shift key always allows the vertical and horizontal parameters to grow equally. I'm going to click on the Shift key and click down and draw to get a circle, and that circle should pretty much line up with the Pepsi logo. Now it blanked out in white right now because the fill up here in the properties bar for the ellipse, there's a properties bar up here, and the fill is set to white. The stroke is set to black, and the stroke is 1 point thick. The stroke is like the trace on the outside. Watch, if I put it to 10, you'll notice the trace is a size 10. If I set the fill to yellow, the inside is yellow. I don't really need a fill right now, but I'll keep it on white. And I'm going to set the stroke down to something a little more reasonable, say 2 is good. Next, I'm going to reduce the opacity of this white circle down to about, say, 40%. The reason I'm doing that is so that I can see the template underneath. Okay, next I'm going to add some nodes on the path. Now you'll notice this circle, if I zoom in here, has a path, that traced line that I showed you earlier. And along the path you can see there are little anchor points here. Okay, and if you grab those anchor points, you can shrink. Here, let me switch my tool here. I'm going to use the direct selection tool. This selection tool selects an entire object. The direct selection tool allows me to click specifically on a path, and you'll notice there is one of the nodes. If I shrink that, look what happens to my circle. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about NURBS, is how we can add these kind of odd shapes in there. Now, what I want to do is I want to dissect this circle so that I have almost a semicircle for the red on the Pepsi logo and almost a semicircle for the blue. So I'm going to split this circle up, and to do that I am going to first add anchor points along the path. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one here where the blue shape ends, and then down here at the edge of the blue shape, and over here at the edge of the red shape. Okay. Next, I'm going to take my direct selection tool and I'm going to click on one of those nodes. So let me click on this one first and hit the cut tool up here. And now let me click on this one and hit the cut tool once again. And now if I delete, it deleted that section of the path. I'm going to do the same, go through the same process up here. Click on this anchor, click cut, click on this anchor, click cut, and then if I want to actually move it, I can just switch tools to the selection tool and I can move this out of the way. You can see that I've cut that path. There is a path here, a semicircular path, but it's opened in the middle right now. I need to close this path, and so we're missing right now a connection. So I am going to go to the pen tool and I'm going to click on that anchor up here and then go down here to this anchor and click, and I now have a path, a closed path on that first half. Let me just go back to this pen tool and do the same over here. I'm going to click on this anchor over here, click on that anchor, and you notice we now have a path for the blue section. Next, holding down near the arrow, the lower right arrow on this tool, I'm going to choose the anchor tool. I'm going to add an anchor. I'm going to add an anchor on this part of the path right about here. I'm trying to choose the height of the apex of this circular part of the Pepsi logo. That is to say, up here it's kind of rising, 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 and then at a certain point it starts to descend, paths going down the other way. So I tried to pick somewhere right in the middle, and then I'm going to take my direct selection tool and click on that node and drag it up here. Now you'll notice that right now it's a cornered. It was a straight line that I drew before, and so this is turned into a corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth that out into a circular path by clicking Convert Selected Anchor Points to Smooth, and then I get a smooth path like that. And I'll be able to adjust that later by, you see these little anchor points here. If I click and drag them, if I move them outward like this, they curve. I'm going to try to move this outward, and you shrink it and pull on it to get the curvature perfectly matched up on the right axis. And the same thing over here. I'm going to click on this side of the arm, or the spindle, and just move it a bit like that. Get it perfectly matched up, and then adjust this one over here again. It's kind of a little tug and pull between the two, and there I've got the first shape, the top part of the Pepsi symbol, done. Next I've got to do the bottom part. So let me take my selection tool and click anywhere on empty white to deselect everything. I'm going to go back here to my add anchor point, and I'm going to add an anchor point, one here, and I think I'm going to need another one over here because the path will start to change. But I'll do that after. Let me start by working on this path. I'm going to bring this down, and right about here you'll notice that it forms kind of a circle here, and I'm going to then say smooth this out. There we go. And I'm going to pull on this handle. There, that's not too bad. And I'm going to pull on this handle here. Now you'll notice that we have a little issue here because the path then rises above the horizon of our shape. So I need to add another anchor right about here. So I'm going to go back to our pen tool, the add anchor point, and I'm going to add an anchor here. Go back to my direct selection tool, pull this up, and switch this to a curved path. And I should then be able to start perfecting this. And it's actually not too bad. It's pretty good. Let's see, we've got this path here. If I pull it down a bit, there we go. That's pretty good. That's good enough. If I go back up here, I could see I missed a bit of red there. If I really want to get picky, I can click on here once again, and I clicked directly on the center of the anchor to get both handles up, and I'm going to pull this handle up a bit. Maybe stretch this one out a bit. Okay. Next, we've got to add the colors, the appropriate colors. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to get my preset colors. I'm going to turn the visibility of this layer off and go back to the original Pepsi layer. Okay, and I'm going to take my eyedropper tool. I've got to unlock this layer, because if you lock it, your eyedropper will turn into a pencil. That will not function. I'm going to unlock the background layer, and I'm going to, with my eyedropper, I'm going to sample this red, and it comes up into the fill area of the palette. And I'm going to open my color guide over here. Actually, I'm going to open my swatches. I'm going to open my swatches. And right now I have this color in the foreground. I'm going to click and drag this color and add it to my swatch, and there it drops in here. So it's saved. Next, I'm going to take my eyedropper and click on the blue. And you notice my foreground color becomes blue. I'm going to click on that blue, drag it into here, and put it in my swatch. So now I have those two preset colors. I'm going to close that window, go back to layers, lock the Pepsi layer, or the background layer, make my circles visible again, and now I'm going to bring this layer back up to 100%. So let's take our selection tool. I'll click on my first shape, bring my first shape back up to 100%, which is, it's set to white right now. If I click on white, you'll notice that our colors are here that we added to our swatches earlier. So here's my red, and I can take my stroke off now. I'll just I'll click on stroke and say no stroke. There we go. Now I'm going to click on my direct selection tool again, click on this part of the shape, the lower part, and I'm going to set this to 100%, and I'm going to go to the fill and choose the blue. I'm going to set the color to the stroke to none. Now let me zoom out. Click off on any empty part of the screen, zoom out. I did Command minus sign or Command plus to zoom in, and there you've got it. We've got a pretty good replication of the original Pepsi logo. You know that because if I turn off this layer, you can see the one underneath is almost identical. Now, once you've done this, you're going to look up the font that resembles Pepsi. Do a Google search and see what font that they used. You may find that a lot of this was done manually. You can use the shape tools to do that. If you find the font, you can install it and use the font directly. So your task for today is to recreate this logo. You can also recreate the Nike logo with the slogan inserted. Again, find the font that they used, install the font. Anytime you install a new font, you're going to have to quit your program and restart it in order for it to take effect.